Hi everyone, so here is today's lesson for the day. Okay, what we're doing is we're putting last lessons all together to finally connect our graphs and make an actual graph, not just the arrows like we were doing last time. So this is your notes for the day. So we have already learned all of these things. We're just going to do one together and you guys are going to kind of rock on your own. So for the first thing I want you to write down, in step 1, I want you to go ahead and write use the zero product property, okay? Because when we are finding x-intercepts, we want to use the zero product property. Now, steps 1 through 3 are really interchangeable, okay? You can do them in any order. It does not matter which order you do them in, you just want to get them done, okay? So, for all of these problems, I'm going to give you an equation that looks like this, the top one and the one that looks like the bottom one. The bottom equation, or the one with the parentheses, is always going to be the zero product property. Okay? It's too hard for you guys to factor that out, so I already factored it for you. All right? And you are just going to use the zero product property to get your zeros. So what I'm going to have you do is break this top box up into 3 sections because we have 3 parentheses. And you are going to use the zero product property in each of this. And all that means is you are setting whatever's in the parenthesis equal to 0. Okay? Then from there, you're just going to solve. Now remember, you're just going to subtract 3, and your answer is x equals -3. Now, you can just notice that by looking at the opposite sign of whatever's inside of your parentheses. So you immediately know that if you have a +3, then your answer is a -3. And remember, I want you to go ahead and make a coordinate pair. So -3, 0. Same thing with the next one. I see that I have a +1, so I immediately know that my answer is a -1, making a coordinate pair also. And then the last one, I see my answer, I have an x -2, so my answer is x equals a +2. And my coordinate pair is 2, 0. Okay? Now, for step 2, we want to identify the y-intercept. And the y-intercept is always the number with no variable. Okay? And in most cases, it's the last number you see in the example. Okay? So in this top example, we are going to look at the first line because now we're trying to find our x-intercept. And here, it's always the number with no variable. And in this case, it is also the last number in the example. So here, I can just circle and write y equals -6. And also make my coordinate pair, which in this case is my y term, so it's going to go second. And my x term is going to stay 0. Okay? Then lastly, you're just going to identify your end behavior. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to write the coefficient, and in this case, the coefficient's 1, and the degree is 3. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to have to go back to your notes from the other day and see what your end behavior is going to look like. Okay, so when I have a positive coefficient and an odd degree, my arrows are going to be down, then up. Okay, so you have learned all of those 3 things already. We learned that last class. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put them together. Okay, and we're going to learn how to make a smooth curve with a graph. All right, so the first thing I want you to do, because we already did this, is you are going to graph your 3 x-intercepts. So you're going to graph -3, 0, -1, 0, and 2, 0. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. -3, 0, -1, 0, and +2, 0. Okay, so I've went and plotted my 3 points. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and plot my y-intercept. Okay, and remember that goes on your y-axis, 0, -6. Then from there, we read a graph left to right. So you always want to look left to right. All right, so using our end behavior, which was here, under the first dot you see on the left, you are going to put a down arrow. And on the last dot you see all the way to the right, you're going to put an up arrow because that's what our end behavior was. It was down, then up. Okay? So under your most left point, you're going to put a down arrow, and over your most right point, you're going to put an up arrow. And from there, we're going to connect our arrows. So we have to draw this in order for it to make sense. So every single time, you're going to go through your dot. And when you've gone through a dot, you're going to start to curve. Okay? And curve. And you have to work towards the next dot that you see from left to right. Okay? So this is important. This is what your graph's going to look like. So I went up through the first dot, then I turned and went the second, and turned and went through the third, and finished facing upward. Okay, so that's how we are going to do these examples. All right, we're going to do a couple more together. All right, you're going to move on to the next one. All right, so here, we are just going to do the same thing that we were doing. I just gave you guys some room to write everything. Okay, so looking at this first example, my leading coefficient, I'm looking here. I'm looking at my second row. My leading coefficient, I notice, is 1, and the biggest degree I see is 2. Okay? Then, now, to find my zeros, I'm going to look at the line with the parentheses. Okay? So, I have x plus 1, which I know I just need to take the opposite number to get my answer. So this would say x equals -1. Which we then know will make the coordinate pair of -1, 0. Okay? Then we're going to go to the next parenthesis, and I see that I have x minus 2. Okay? And I know that if I have x minus 2, my answer is the opposite, which is x equals 2, which then makes my coordinate pair of 2, 0. Then, in order to find my y-intercept, I'm looking back at this second equation, and I'm looking for the number with no variable, okay? And at the end of the example. So in this case, my y-intercept is y equals -2, which makes my coordinate pair 0, -2. Okay? Now, from there, I'm going to go ahead and graph those. First, I'm going to graph my zeros. So I have -1, 0, and 2, 0. Now, I understand there isn't much room, but I gave you some space, okay? You're just going to have to imagine that there's little tick marks there and draw your lines, okay? And then 0, -2. Then from there, I need to find my end behavior. So I'm looking at my leading coefficient and my degree. And I see that I have a positive coefficient and an even degree. So both of my lines should be facing up. Okay? And then from there, I'm just going to connect my lines. So I'm going down and up. Okay, this one was a little bit easier. All right? Good, so we're going to move on to the next one. We're going to do the same thing that we were just doing. So, in order to find my leading coefficient, I am looking at my second line, okay? And I see here that my leading coefficient is a -1. And the biggest degree that I see is 3. Okay? Now, from there, I need to go ahead and look at my parenthesis line to find my zeros. Okay? Looking at my first parenthesis, I have x plus 3, so I know my answer is x equals -3, which makes the coordinate pair -3, 0. Then I know that I have x plus 2, so this makes my answer x equals -2, which makes the coordinate pair -2, 0. Then lastly, I have x minus 1, which gives me the answer of x equals 1, which makes the coordinate pair 1, 0. Okay? So I found my zeros. Now I need to find my y-intercept. Okay? So going back to this equation, I am just looking for the last number with no variable. And in this case, it's 6. So here, y equals 6, which makes the coordinate pair of 0, 6. Okay? Then from there, I'm going to go ahead and plot my zeros first. So I have -3, 0, -2, 0, 1, 0, and 0, 6. Okay? From there, I need to go ahead and look for my end behavior. So looking at, I have a negative leading coefficient and an odd degree. So my first arrow will be pointing up on my most left point, and on my most right point, my arrow will be facing down. And from there, I'm just going to connect my lines, okay? So down, once I hit a point, I turn and go back up. Then I go find my next point, then come back down and connect it right to that last arrow, okay? So you have to just try and find the way that it makes the most sense, okay? You're always connecting from left to right. All right, let's do this last one, okay? So looking here, all right, my leading coefficient is a -1, and my degree is a 4. For my zeros, I have to go ahead and look at this top line, okay? Now, here I have an x. Immediately, I know that x equals 0. Anytime you have an x just hanging out, not in a parenthesis, you know that x equals 0, which immediately makes the point 0, 0. Okay? Then I go to parenthesis 2, and I have x minus 2. So I know that makes my answer x equals 2, which makes the coordinate pair 2, 0. Then I have plus 4, which makes my answer x equals -4, which makes the coordinate pair -4, 0. And then lastly, I have x plus 1, which gives me the answer of x equals -1, which makes the point -1, 0. Then for my y-intercept, here, this is a good, I put this to trick you, okay? In this example, there is no term without a variable, right? So what I can do to the end is just add a 0 in, and this would become my y-intercept, where y would equal 0, and it would be the point 0, 0. Okay? Then from there, I can go ahead and graph my zeros. So I have 0, 0, then 2, 0, then -4, 0, then -1, 0, and my y-intercept, which is just 0, 0. Okay? From there, I'm going to look at my leading coefficient and my degree to find my end behavior. So when I have a negative leading coefficient and an even degree, both of my arrows are facing down. So on the most left point, you're putting a down arrow, and on the most right point, you're putting a down arrow. Okay? And from there, we're just going to connect them. So up, down, up, down. Okay? So that's how you're going to complete those. Every time you go through a point, you're going to start making a change in the graph. You're going to start going the other way. Okay? Now, down to numbers 10 and 11. These are asking a different thing. So they give you the chart, and they want you to give you and they want them to give you the answers. Okay? So from this, my question A is the degree even or odd? I'm looking at number 10. Now, immediately, I see that my arrows are pointing two different ways, which I told you is to really look for when they're opposite, you're just going to say that it's odd. You immediately know that whenever the arrows are one way and the other, it's odd. Okay? Now, looking at question 2, it's asking, is the leading coefficient positive or negative? So you need to go back to your chart, okay, from day 1, and when we have a down and then up arrow, is it negative or positive? Is your coefficient negative or positive when it's down then up? Okay? And I know that when I have down up, it is positive. Okay? From there, I'm going to ask, the letter C is asking what are the real zeros? Okay? And all that's asking is what is the points at which the graph touches the x-axis? So in this case, there was 4 points. Okay? And then they just want you to get the coordinate pair. So on this first point, it's -2, 0. And then 0, 0. And then 4, 0. And then 6, 0. Okay? So you are going to do the same thing for number 11. Now, when on number 11, the first question I have to answer is even or odd. Is the degree even or odd? In this case, they're both facing the same way. So I know that I know that it's even when they're the same because they're at an even playing field. They're going the same direction. Okay? Then I have to go back to my chart. When both are facing down, when both arrows are facing down, is it positive or is it negative? And I know that it's negative. Okay? All right. Then from there, I just need to go ahead and find my zeros. So I'm going to plot every single time the graph touches the x-axis. And it does it at -2, 0, 0, 0, and +2, 0. Okay? All right. So you're going to go ahead and do this page on your own, okay? And then when you are done, you're going to pause this video right now. When you're done, you're going to come back and check your answers, okay? I'm not going to do the work, so you have to do the work. I'm just going to give you the answers so you can check them, okay? So please pause this video and then come back. All right, now that you're back, I am just going to go ahead and give you the answers, okay? So x equals 0, 0, 0. X equals -1, -1, 0. X equals 2, 2, 0. And x equals -2, -2, 0. My y-intercept here was y equals 0, which makes my coordinate 0, 0. I had a leading coefficient of 1 and a degree of 4. Okay? From there, I'm going to go ahead and plot my points. I'm going to plot my zeros first. Okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and plot my y-intercept. And then find my end behavior. In this case, with a positive leading coefficient and an even degree, both of them are facing up. Okay? And from there, I'm just going to connect my lines. Okay, so that's what 13 should look like. On to 14. My 0 was x equals 3, 3, 0. X equals 2, 2, 0. X equals -2, -2, 0. And then my y-intercept was 12. So 0, 12. My leading coefficient was 1, and my degree was 3. From there, I'm going to plot my zeros first, so my x-intercepts. 3, 0, 2, 0, -2, 0. And then my y-intercept was 0, 12. Okay? When I have a positive coefficient and an odd degree, it should look down to up. Okay? And from there, I'm just going to attach my lines to go through my points. Okay? It should look something like this. Down to 15. Okay? My 0 was x equals -3, -3, 0. X equals +1, 1, 0. And x equals -1, -1, 0. My y-intercept is -3. Okay? My leading coefficient was 1, and my degree was 3. From there, I'm going to plot my points. So -3, 0, -1, 0, 1, 0, and a y-intercept of 0, -3. When I have a positive leading coefficient and an odd degree, my first arrow is down and my last arrow is up. Okay? And from there, I'm just going to attach my lines. Okay? And then lastly, number 16. Okay? I have x equals -2, x equals -1, and x equals +3. My y-intercept is -6, so 0, -6. My loading coefficient is 1. My degree is 3. Then I'm going to go ahead and plot my points. I have -2, 0, -1, 0, +3, 0, and 0, -6. Okay, when I have a positive leading coefficient and an odd degree, my first arrow is down, my second arrow is up. And from there, I'm just going to connect my lines. Okay? Obviously, they're not going to be super, super exact. They're going to look a little sloppy, but all I want you to know is how you have to get through those lines, okay? If you have any questions, please let me know.